Tulsa will be in lane number 2 and Stanford in lane 3. Once again, this is the final for the women's collegiate lightweights.
Well, that brings us back to the starting line. This is the AW Coggeshall Cup, women's collegiate lightweight. And yes, Alan, you're right. There are 2 Stanford boats in this event, followed by the, with the addition of Tulsa, Golden Hurricane. All programs, Stanford and Tulsa, are very good programs. So this is going to be a tough race all the way down.
If you do not have your point, please have your bow person's hand in the air. You are aligned. Stanford A, Tulsa, Stanford B.
We have an alignment, and we're waiting for the start.
Attention, go!
That is the start of the women's collegiate lightweight. Stanford A, Tulsa, lane 3, Stanford B. It is a clean start away from the stake boats. All boats have crossed the 100-meter breakage point. Stanford now at 41 strokes per minute. Lane 1 leading at Tulsa at this moment, but it is a great race, and I'm going to have to turn it over. I have mechanical breakage on my boat, so over to you at the finish.
Well, get out one of your old-fashioned oars, and we'll be back to you with repairs shortly. Looking at lane number 1, the women's collegiate lightweight final. It is the Stanford A crew in lane 1. They got off to an early lead, and it looks like they may hang on to that lead. Tulsa in lane 2 in second position, and the B boat out of Stanford University in lane number 3.
The Stanford lightweight program looks to be very strong this year. They've brought 2 boats down for this final, competing against the University of Tulsa. Be interesting to see if the A boat stays the A boat. The B boat is always motivated to get those letterings switched.
How are you with suntan lotion? Okay? Yeah. Okay.
3 crews in this event number 12, the women's collegiate lightweight final. And on the lead is the A boat out of Stanford.
How's his voice holding up?
Tulsa moving along in second position. And on the far outside, the B boat for Stanford. Stanford B boat on the outside. Looks like they're making a little bit of a mild challenge at about 750 meters into this race. So as mentioned, the B boat is always interested in showing what's up and try to eclipse the A boat in any program that's around. And this might be an opportunity for them to move up as they are on the outside, looking like they have gotten back into the hunt a little bit. In the middle, Tulsa certainly is not going away. And along the shoreline, Stanford had the early lead, the Stanford A boat, but Tulsa has edged into the lead now. Tulsa, inside 1,000 meters to go in this race, has moved up on the lead, and on the far outside, the Stanford B boat certainly is not going away. So it is Tulsa on the lead with the Stanford A boat along the shoreline and the B outside making their presence known. Does not appear to be any open water set up so far.
It's a nice position when you're in a close race to be in the middle. The coxswain can see where everyone is on both sides, and even though you're not really supposed to pay attention as a rower, you can hear the competition. It makes it a little easier to give that extra bit.
Looks like on the outside, the Stanford B boat is beginning to move up, and they are challenging Tulsa. Tulsa made a little bit of a course correction there that possibly may cost them. Fortunately for our crews this morning, the water is sitting down very, very well, and there is little or no breeze combating what these crews are trying to do. On the outside, the Stanford B boat making a run. Coming up on Tulsa, the Stanford A boat beginning to fall back a little bit on lane number 1. This might be an opportunity for the B boat to say, there. Stanford B on the outside. In the middle, it's Tulsa, and along the shoreline, the Stanford A crew. It looks like the B is up on it. Stanford B on the outside, Tulsa in the center. And along the shoreline is the Stanford A crew. Stanford B still in a mid-course stroke rating of around 34. But they have gotten some powerful pull and have moved into that first position. Tulsa in second, now beginning to fight off the Stanford A crew. Stanford A beginning to fight back. Stanford B beginning to lug down just a little bit. Maybe the fatigue at this point is beginning to catch up with them, as the Stanford A crew beginning to make a move on Tulsa along the shoreline. Tulsa in the middle of the pack, still holding tightly to that second position. On the outside, it's Stanford B. Tulsa in the center of our course, and the Stanford A trying to get back into the hunt. This is the Women Collegiate Lightweight Final, as the Stanford B boat is showing them up on the outside. We'll see if the A's have enough to get back into it. They're certainly challenging Tulsa at this time. Tulsa in the middle, trying desperately to fight off the Stanford A boat along the shoreline. But the Stanford B's on the outside into open water lead. They have steadily moved up and moved into that first position after being off the pace early. Tulsa fighting hard to hang on as the Stanford B moves through a set of buoys well ahead of the other two. It is Tulsa by about a half a bow length over Stanford A. It is Stanford B on the outside with open water. It'll be a battle between Tulsa in the middle and Stanford A along the shoreline. It is bow point to bow point as they move along. Stanford A on the shoreline. Tulsa on the center of our course, with apparently the Stanford B boat coming in first, and we'll take a very close peek at what's happening in that second spot as the Stanford A moves across. It looks like at the finish line, whoa, by about a bow ball length, it'll be Tulsa in second spot, and in our third position will be the Stanford A crew. Unofficial results, it is Stanford B crew coming up with the open water victory, and a great battle for second spot between Tulsa, just barely held on, and the Stanford A crew. Coming up next will be the Men's Collegiate Novice A, and this will be the first of a couple of heats for us here, and we'll get that started here shortly.